So that's what I was going to say, so excuse our echo. We are patiently waiting for our new carpet to be put in, which brings us to our lesson, believe it or not. So that brings us to our lesson of baking banana bread. What's that got to do with the fruit of the Spirit? It's, I know you probably wonder how banana breaking? Well, you are breaking it to make banana bread. and how that could be tied to patiently waiting for the carpet to be installed, but they're connected. But we'll get to that. You'll hopefully see or understand, right? So last time we finished talking about the God word cluster of fruit, which was what? Love, joy, peace. Just the first three. Don't go, keep going. The first cluster, three of them, love, joy, peace, right? So tonight we're going to start talking about the man word cluster, which includes patience or long suffering, kindness, and goodness. Okay, so
do you know that has that?
I'll explain the man word in just a second. Okay. So Billy Graham, he explains the God word, man word fruit this way. The first cluster of the fruit, love, joy, peace, has a primary Godward relationship with outward results others can see. So it's your relationship with God that brings about the love, joy, peace. And that's what you display to others because of your relationship with God. Okay, whoops, forgot a word. So that's his definition of what God word means. Everybody got that? So the second cluster of manward fruit, which is patience, kindness, goodness, has to do with the kind of Christians we are in our outward relationships. That's why it's manward, out towards man.
For people releases.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so that's why tonight's the fruit is bananas. And you're going to have to wonder why. Why do we need patience to be represented by bananas? But we'll get that.
Did somebody in here post about bananas recently?
Lori did.
Lori did. That was very interesting.
Oh, she's asking who posted
That was very interesting.
bananas.
Yes.
Oh, you just asked me that
You did?
posted.
The different stages? That was you.
Give
Okay.
us somebody over here.
We watched a whole interesting video about bananas. Very good. I should post that so you guys can see it. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to play the silence game. Just because of the echoing. Okay, so let's read a few verses about the manward fruit of patience, or long suffering, depending on your translation. And we'll talk a little bit more at the end about my bananas and how they represent patience. So let's start with Proverbs 15:18. Now I'm putting this one in the Good News translation. Hot tempers cause arguments, but patience brings peace. And that is so true. And then Proverbs 14:29, a patient person is very smart. A quick-tempered person makes stupid mistakes. That's the easy reading version. It's interesting to read some of these in the different translations. Well, this is easy reading version. So I don't know I should look what grade level it is. It's probably like 4th or 5th grade level, but anyway. What is it?
Patient man has great understanding. But a quick-tempered man is so folly. And I guess you don't know what folly is.
That's why, yeah, this is why I want to make it so clear and obvious, because stupid mistakes is easier to understand than folly. Some of us are familiar with folly, but it's a very old word. So the Hebrew word for patience means long-suffering or slow to anger. This lesson was a little bit of an eye-opener for me because I have never thought about patience this way, and very convicting as I went through it. So this definition of what patience is very telling of what not having patience leads to or is, if that makes sense. Everybody got that? Okay. So lack of patience is usually anger being expressed in some form, and in other cases, selfishness being expressed. And I had to stop and think, it is very true. Because a lot of times when I am not being patient, I get angry. I'm having some form of anger. It may not be a full anger, but I'm irritated, you know. And then other times the reason I'm not being patient is because I am being selfish about something. I want it my way in my time. And I really never thought about patience much that way before. I don't know. I just thought about hurry up, I guess has been more my definition. I want things to hurry up and get done or get my way, right? But really it is a selfishness because I'm pushing my agenda. I want things my way. Or I get irritated, and that's what's being expressed, my lack of patience.
Well, even our circumstances, like whatever comes our way, you know, throughout this world, are we being patient in circumstances, or is it always about me?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm uncomfortable, this isn't good, I don't like this, right?
That's exactly right. This opened up my eyes a little bit. Okay, so let's read a couple more verses about patience and it's what it means. Romans 8:25, and I put this in two different translations. The New King James is, "But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with perseverance." Patience is a perseverance. And if they want that in the good news, it says, "But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience," which is the word we're looking at. Then Ephesians 4:2, "With all lowliness and gentleness, with long suffering, bearing with one another love." And that's the old term that we've heard a lot because King James and New King James. And that's actually a more intense meaning for the word patience, because long suffering sounds much worse because you got suffering and it's long term. That sounds much worse than patience, right? And even sounds worse than perseverance, I think. And so that's another way of looking at patience. So, but in the good news, of course, it uses the word, "Be always humble, gentle, and patient. Show love by being tolerant with one another." So the Greek word for patience, or long suffering, speaks of a person's steadfastness under provocation or patiently enduring ill treatment without anger or thought of revenge. And this just reminded me of my younger days. I was much more vengeful in thought. Not that I would do anything necessarily, but I thought of ways for vengeance. Exactly. Exactly.
It's kind of like you were never convicted, is that what you're saying?
No. Yes, Debbie?
When you first started, you were talking up and you keep going with that name. I was thinking this is self-control.
Nope. But it is part of it. Patience would be a part of self-control.
Makes sense.
But I mean, not be the main thing. You were saying, you've always thought of patience, you know, we wait, and we do what we can do while we wait.
Uh-huh.
This sounds like self-control to me because we are keeping our anger under or no thoughts of revenge.
Well, what I'm finding, because like I've already done the next lesson, as I've gone through each lesson, they are all so tied together. All the fruit are interwoven. They, like if you're working on, you know, if you have one fruit working, the other fruit is right there with it at some point. So I see self-control and patience.
But that goes back to what we said, it's called the fruit.
Right.
Of the Spirit, not the fruits. It's
Right,
the fruit.
right.
So it's all,
It's all
I
connected.
was going to say that, and plus I was just going to say, regretfully, I just finished the assessment and writing all the verses out and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and they all are so intertwined,
Uh-huh.
it would be hard to pick out one
Uh-huh.
and say it was a fruit without it touching another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a great.
A big cluster that's connected, huh? Yeah. Yeah, they are, it is definitely intertwined. You can't, if you're, and I'll even talk about more in the next lesson as well, some others that are connected. And they kind of just walk hand in hand like we talked about, with those other two. Usually if you see the one, the other one is right there with it, so. But thankfully over the years, God has worked on my revenge.
Did you used to be a hoe? Let's just get down to brass tacks.
Get used to be a what?
You used to be a hoe. I seen a picture.
Yes, actually, yes.
Oh my.
I was Lou Ferrigno.
One.
I can see your mom doing
That's what I can picture.
But yeah, my little mind would click off, things that, just because it was the only way seem like you could deal with the frustrations, right? It's like, plot their demise, some way. But God, works on me and I'm matured. I don't plot things anymore.
Sometimes when you're like that, it feels like you're being strong, and you're really not.
No.
It feels like you're doing something when you're angry.
I'm going to take care of this situation.
Yeah, there's something that is attractive about it in a certain way. It feels right, I guess. Not that
It feeds our flesh,
Yeah.
But it's also like we're handling it instead of God handling it.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's not a good place to be, but see, that's part of maturing. There's lots of things we all used to do when we were younger that hopefully now we're better at not doing. We've made improvements in our walk, the Holy Spirit's been changing us, so. But anyway, so our patience is hanging on by a thread sometimes, but we need to keep that thread from breaking and endure, which is what that one verse was talking about. It's endurance, making it through the situation, whatever it is, whatever wearing our patience thin. Sometimes you get so worn thin that even the littlest thing sets you off. You don't have any patience even for the little things. So my thing is, be patient, don't get angry. That's this guy's motto, right? Bruce Banner, don't make him angry. He's always trying to stay calm. So the real thing to think about is that the Holy Spirit is not in control if we're irritable or easily angered, or if we're vengeful, resentful, if we're malicious to others. Those are signs that the Holy Spirit is not in control at that moment or point in your life. And that's a real big thing you should remind yourself about. Okay, I just spent 20 minutes being easily irritated. Obviously, I'm not listening to the Holy Spirit because I shouldn't be as easily irritated. There is something wrong here. So that's when you're supposed to stop and pray and ask for help. So doing this study, I feel a lot like Charles Stanley did when we talked about him a few weeks ago with his testimony. He was about to preach on the fruit of the Spirit when he got to that point in Galatians, and he just felt totally unworthy. And that's the way I feel, because as I go through each of these fruit, so far we've done love, joy, peace, and now patience, and I've done the next one as well, which is gentleness, or kindness, depending on the translation. I feel very unworthy to teach this as well, because I fail on different points of this time and time again, and it just drives me nuts. I'm thinking, man, I was not gentle. I just walked in and said, blah, blah, blah. I should have ignored it or been nice or whatever, not said anything. There's so many things I wish I had done better.
Okay, but then you're the perfect teacher, because if you already did all these things, you wouldn't understand us. You wouldn't be able to teach it.
Can I relate to you, Beth?
Well, don't ask Ike.
Don't ask Ike. I'll be calling him. I need to know about Beth.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you didn't, I know what this felt like.
I know, but it's just like I want to be perfect. I want to do so much better.
That's your OCD. So
I know.
just back off from that.
It's hard though, because I get so frustrated with myself. But anyway.
I'll tell everybody.
The older you get, the more you know what you don't.
Exactly.
Realize
Exactly.
how lacking you are.
Yeah.
Things are very black and white when you're young. You just know.
Right.
You know stuff, you think. And
Yeah,
Live
Oh,
long
yeah,
enough to
that's-
start realizing how much you don't know.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, Claudia has a story about that,
About my old lady,
your old ladies.
I was my early 20s, and we were sitting around talking about. It must have been, I think it was Bible study. We were just sitting around visiting, and some of the older women were just like saints to me. I just, I thought they were so perfect,
Like Granny Mildred.
precious. And they said, one of the ladies said, well, it's really hard because when you have those evil thoughts, and I thought, evil thoughts? I had to bought off my shoulders. Because I remember thinking, there is no way she has one evil thought in her head. And I said, don't we reach a plateau where we are up there and things go smooth? And every one of those women said, no. And I remember going home thinking, well, that's depressing. We'll never be that good perfect teacher.
It's just hard because you want to be doing better, and I see growth in my life, but you're right, because when you're younger, you you don't even recognize as much of what you're doing wrong. But as you get older in the Lord, you say, "Oh, see all this stuff I'm
And
doing."
what changes is what my math teacher used to say. When I said, why do we have to have all this homework? And this is in college, and I was pretty good at math, and I said, why do we have to be doing all these problems every day? And he said, it's like a path through a grassy field. The more you do it, the deeper the rut, the quicker you do go to where you're supposed to be. And that's the same way with our Christian walk. If we practice peace, love, joy, all those guys, bananas, then the next time something comes up, we'll go there quicker, or we should.
Yeah, you should. You'll turn either to God in prayer quicker, or
We'll learn to go to our Bible quicker, and so that's the beauty of it, but it's very frustrating
yeah, it is
that you still are gonna stumble. Other you would keep faith if you didn't.
true. I just realize, as I grow, that I know that I'm not listening to those Holy Spirit promptings like I should. He's poking at me, kind of like Connie says, he's poking at you.
But
And
when you're younger, you don't realize you're not listening.
yeah, exactly. It's different.
Unconscious, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
You have
nice.
awareness.
And I learned about the old ladies when I worked at the convalescent home. Your eyes, you would think that they're at a certain place, but they make it very clear that they're all still just human, just like us younger ones, and they have some of the same emotions, feelings, and
All the sinners.
yeah, and nope. But one of the things I say for myself and for you, I need to memorize and pray for myself various verses, and one of them is like James 1:19 on this subject. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. This is a good verse about patience in your life, because if you have this embedded in you, you might be reminded to slow down a little bit. Don't
I'd say
speak.
that Sunday, I don't know, I remember teaching about tolerance and being nice to people, because that's, I don't remember exactly what our story was, but Mr. Torrin quoted that verse to us.
Oh, cool.
And he didn't say where it was from, but he said, like, when you're supposed to, wait, you have to be slow to speak, because you gotta listen first. His mom, teaching.
Slow down, boy. Yep, little geniuses. So, if we followed the instructions of James 1:19, we would be less likely to sin with our mouth, with our words. Right? If we were slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to get angry, we're less likely to sin with our words especially.
So you're saying my mouth is-
Yeah, I started saying mouth. No, it's word. Either way. It works. So this is one of my other suggestions besides the verse memorization.
It's a mouth tape.
Yeah, get some tape. Might slow you down. Is it? I'll tell the story on my mother when she was babysitting the kids. You were there too, right? Yeah. Gregory was not slow to speak.
He was a quiet angel.
No, he was the one that was going to aggravate if he was going to aggravate. So my mom wanted him to be quiet. I don't know what he was saying that was setting her off. So she decided, this is where his love of duct tape began. She decided to duct tape his mouth, right, with duct tape. And he would not stop talking and got the duct tape off, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, Greg, you are such an instigator. But anyway, it could be a solution if you don't talk. But I know I'm far too quick to express my opinion. My brain is always going. I'm always thinking, and I just want to like express myself. It must be my parents' fault. I don't know. But sometimes I want to jump to a conclusion as well. Maybe I don't know all the details, but based on situations, I make a decision about what I think is appropriate for, the situation. And then sometimes I just snap at people. And that's all me not keeping my mouth closed and being slow to speak. So, if I would just stop and remind myself about that verse, maybe I'd be a little slower.
It's just very apropos that Steve and I just had this competition over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
And he says, I can't control everything. So, Joanne, I can't control you. And I said I thought I could. Because she's so small. I can't tell Lori where to sit in line. She's small. I think it has to, I know teachers are controlling.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all want to be in control and make sure everything's right. But poor little Donna, is a quiet teacher and
She's got this one all.
Anybody, how does that happen?
Donna has this gift, this fruit, down pat.
She goes into her prayer room and
Right, Donna?
lets it all out.
Yeah, exactly. She's in there using her prayer room.
That's right.
But this is something we probably all need to learn, but I know I need to learn. I need to learn to not be so quick to jump to conclusions. I need to be not so quick to express my opinion. I need to slow down with what I say and not snap just because it's not my way. Which is one of those weaknesses at points. Like, I want everything my way. I want it all my OCD way, but it can't be that way. So that would help me not sin with my mouth. So we need to be praying. We need to stop and ask. We need to just stop. Don't just immediately blurt out. Don't start talking. Just stop and think for a minute. Say a prayer. It's a habit. You have to train yourself to stop and pray.
Oh, that's the.
Did you just blurt out? Did she blurt out? Wow.
Remember the story, Donna. You should have told me. Nehemiah, before he did anything, he stopped
Then pray. Even before he spoke.
Even before he went
Yeah.
to the king.
Right.
And before, he stopped and always prayed on big God. So I'm sorry.
But good.
I got it.
Appropriate.
Yes, like we should
Good.
stop and.
Good timing. Stop and pray. Because he was the cupbearer, right? Cupbearer to the king, and he had his homeland on his mind, and before he handed the cup, he's thinking and praying. And the king said, "What's on your mind, Nehemiah?"
Let's build a wall.
Yeah, let's build a wall. Yeah.
But all throughout his tenure as the administrator. I mean, all throughout the book of Nehemiah, it
Mhm.
always says that Nehemiah went to God, or he prayed and said, or whatever.
Yeah, he's
He's a good example.
good example. So there are other verses you can pray, like Colossians 1:1, Colossians 1:11. Strengthened with all might according to his glorious power for all patience and long suffering with joy. This is part of a passage that had to do with Paul praying for the Colossians that they would have all patience. He was praying for them. So we need to pray for ourselves, but maybe we know someone else who we need to pray for that doesn't have, has issues with patience. Someone confides in you, say, I'll pray for you. You pray for me. So you guys pray for me that I have patience, because obviously I have a lot of issues. So I could give you a list later. But this was part of a prayer. So pray for strength to be patient with joyfulness. Uh-oh.
I don't ask for patience anymore.
Okay, that's what I'm going to say. You're just so on target. I was going to say, you've heard that old advice. Don't pray for patience. Don't pray for it. That's not what you pray about. Do you know why?
Because then you have to learn it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's read James.
3-year-old boy.
Huh?
Who said when he prayed for patience, he had a 3-year-old son.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So he said he wasn't going to do that anymore.
So let's read James 1, 2, and 3 to find out why. This is what James says. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. So your faith is going to be tested. Now, you still need to grow and get patient. Don't be picking on me. Did you all blurt that out?
Bruce, that might be short.
Also pray for my snorting to go away. Okay. So patience is learned through trials that test our faith in God. Now, just because you think now you shouldn't pray for patience to try to prevent those problems and situations from coming your way, that doesn't mean God still isn't going to allow some into your life. Because probably a lot of us need to learn patience, I'm sure. And it's only in those difficult times, those trying times, you're going to learn. You're going to learn just where your faith is standing with the Lord. You're going to learn where your faith is growing or not growing. And so it's important, though we don't like it, to have trials and tribulations and irritating people in our life. It seems like over...
We learn trust.
Yeah, that's where you learn trust, yeah. It seems like over our ministry, God has always allowed 1 to 2 irritating people in our ministry.
Who's she looking at?
I'm not looking at any one of you in particular. I'm not even going to say if 1 or 2 of you are in the room that are on my current irritation list.
So who's on the line? Is it only Chris?
Oh, Chris, yeah, Chris.
He should be included.
But I always think it's funny, almost all throughout our ministry, there's been 1 to 2 people, always, whether they're in the church or just connected to the church, that they're a little irritating or testing of your patience. And, but it seems like, okay, well, we're done with that one. And another one comes along. It's like this interesting ministry growth process. I was kind of laugh about that. It's like, oh, who is it this year? Some of them go for more than a year, but anyway. But I'm not saying it's any of you.
I think you better put all your hands in.
Am I letting out too much too fast? Probably, okay. I'll slow down my speech. We'll move on.
I think it's time to pray.
Time to pray. So notice what it says in James 1:2. When my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. Well, first notice it says when. So you're not going to avoid them even if you don't pray for patience. You're going to get them. So there's no doubt you're going to get tested. Becoming a Christian doesn't protect you from trials and problems, because that's how he's going to grow you. That's just the way it is. But notice the second thing, it says various trials. So he kind of works, he knows what you need help in, what your areas of weakness are, where you need growth. And so maybe he's going to work on a particular subject in your life for a while. Like I've told you guys before, mine was finances. For years on end, finances was my weakness, because I want it all to be taken care of and taken care of now, and I want to be reassured and all that. So what keeps happening? What trial keeps coming into my life? Financial troubles, some new thing to deal with. But as time has gone by, I have grown in that area. I'm definitely not perfect, but I am a lot more trusting of God and letting him take care of that area, right? But guess what? He's found a new thing. It's my tongue. You guys didn't know that. No. So anyway, whatever our weakness is, he's going to bring trials into your life that are connected to growing you in that. So just because you don't pray for patience doesn't mean you're not going to get something to help move you along and make you more Christ-like. So anyway, it's in those moments of temptation and weakness that we need to stop and pray, which is what we've already said. Stop and pray. Someone comes up that you know is one of your irritating people in your life that pushes your buttons all the time, then's the moment to stop and pray as you see them approaching your door. Okay? Doesn't mean you need to avoid them or not talk to them, but you do need to pray and ask God to guide you in your words with them. So that's what we read in Romans 12:12. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer. So, if you're going to go through that tribulation, you need to be steadfastly continuing in prayer. It's part of the way to get through it. So, when we did our study of Joseph, for those of you who were here for the foreshadow, you remember how patient he had to be? God gave him those dreams of grandeur, a promised future that was going to be great. What happened to him? He's hauled off and made a slave in a foreign country for years. Then he's locked up for years in prison as a prison slave, which is even lower yet. And talk about being patient. And then when he sees hope on the horizon, oh hey, the butcher, not the butcher and baker, what are those people? No, the winemaker, cupbearer, he was getting out. Oh, he's got to be patient again because the wine bearer forgot him. So, a perfect example of a man of patience. Even him just putting up with Potiphar's wife was a man of patience. So he learned his patience and skills throughout that whole trial and tribulation in his life. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us. Right, but we have our own set of trials and tribulations. But in the end, what was happened? He was blessed. Everything that he learned was put to use, and he was blessed. And he saved his people, right? So his patience led to good fruit. Good things happened. And then Paul makes another interesting point about suffering and trials in Philippians 3:10. That I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death. We can know Jesus' teachings and his doctrines, and we can know his history and the life of Jesus, but it's through our times of suffering that we truly get to know Jesus and experiencing his power. And I know that's true of me. I don't know if I've ever suffered. At the moment I felt like I was suffering, but I haven't suffered like Joseph suffered. But I've suffered in my own way, I guess. But it's during those times that I grew closer to God. I grew in my walk and my faith. So if I hadn't had those trials, I'd probably be a lot less mature. Not that you think I'm mature now, but I would be even less, right? So that's why we can do what James 1:2 tells us, which is count it all joy. That seems like a hard one, but it's because of that relationship. It's not the trial itself that's joyful. It's the relationship, the growth, the faith we're gaining, the blessings we're gaining from getting to know Jesus all the way. So we can have joy in our trials because we get to truly know Jesus and experience his power. If you didn't have some problem for him to help you with through life, you wouldn't get to experience that power of his working, right? So it's not the trials that give us the joy, it's the relationship and what we learn and the fruit. And I love Paul's reminder in 2 Corinthians 4:17, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. So no matter what we're patiently waiting through now, whatever trial we're going through, it may seem horrendous, but it will end. And the whole of eternity we get to spend with Jesus. I was thinking about the other day, can't wait. So even though our trials can be gut-wrenching and difficult, they are light and lightweight by comparison. And it's hard for us to imagine that now, but when we get there, we say, oh wow, that was nothing. Look at what we're enjoying now. So with the wonderful life, we experience an eternity forward with God. You know, thinking about, I've said this before, thinking about our future, you know, can give us a different focus and might help us be a little more patient with people or in a situation, right? Might help us as we go through a serious illness we have to wait through or be patient through. Focusing on the future can help us. Did I make a boo-boo?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's okay. We all figured it out.
It's a new puzzle for you? You patiently figured it out? Thank you.
Is this one of our trials?
Yes, first one.
The grace was.
So if you're going through something tough, whether you're sitting through an illness, waiting to get well or be through with treatments, or whether you're having that irritating person constantly bothering you, you keep waiting for that trial to end, just be patient, thinking about the good things that are lying ahead for you, and ask God to help you get through what you're going through now, whatever it might be. So, I want to share a little testimony tonight of Joni Eareckson Tada. Some or most of you probably know her. So she was paralyzed after diving into shallow water in Chesapeake Bay in 1967. This is one of her pictures. I don't know that this is the day that it happened, but once that's where they would go swimming and diving, right? So this is probably where it happened, but not necessarily the same picture the same day. So at that accident, she severed her spinal column at the C4, C5 vertebrae, leaving her quadriplegic from the neck down. She's been paralyzed in a wheelchair and requiring round-the-clock care for almost 58 years now. God has given her a great ministry of painting, writing, teaching, and singing during that time. So here are a few words from her about patience from a 2020 interview she did with a lady named Crystal. Crystal started out by asking her, I've asked you this before, don't you ever get tired? I mean, not just physically, but do you ever feel like, you know, what? It's just too much. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't do this anymore. The quadriplegia, the chronic pain, the cancer, because she went through cancer as well, the COVID-19, which was what was going on when this interview was done, the sheltering in place, and on and on. And so this is what Joni said. All the time, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like, can I really do this? Right now, my husband and I have a shortage of caregivers because of COVID-19. Never thought about that for the people that went through that have to have round-the-clock care. And one of those caregivers, she's one of my overnight friends who stays to give Ken Tada, that's her husband, a break. She gets up in the middle of the night and turns me a couple of times, retucks my pillows. Well, she's getting married and she's moving on, and this means I've got to train somebody new, find somebody new to help. I've got to invite them into the privacy of my bedroom. I've got to lie there naked while they learn this. And that all the routines and my catheter and my toilet, it's like the other night we were training a new girl, and I'm thinking, is this going to be a good fit? Is this going to work out? Oh Jesus, I am so tired. I don't think I can go through this again. What kind of learning curve does this girl have, etc.? I'm overwhelmed. And so yes, of course I get tired, but Crystal, I prize something higher than the temporary fix of giving into my emotions. I purposefully prize the work of Christ in my life. I've invested too much to give up. Now, why jeopardize the treasures that I've laid up in heaven? Why risk destroying my eternal joy? So I'm going to persevere. I am intentional about being patient, and waiting on the Lord is something that my wheelchair has taught me. Well, the Bible is constantly telling us, wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Well, you know what? When you're in a wheelchair, it's almost built in. You have to wait on the Lord. You can't learn to swim on dry land, and you can't learn to be patient without having something to endure. And so, in that way, my wheelchair is a severe mercy. Oh, it's tough, hard bruising of a blessing. It's a dark, dark guest, but it is a friend. It's a guest, nonetheless, that I have to welcome into my life. So we need to remember to pray for people like Johnny and others who are bound to their wheelchairs, whether it's veterans who've come home for the war, they're stuck with, you see some of the commercials, the guys that are just round-the-clock care, just like her. I mean, everything has to be done for them. We need to pray for them, pray for seniors we know that are wheelchair-bound as well. It's a hard thing to be waiting on people all the time. I think about that. Even when I've been in the hospital, you're waiting to get help from the nurse because you're not allowed to get up out of bed, right? You have to wait for them. It's much more difficult for them. And I just thought with her story, I guess I never think much about how much they have to have patience. And for her, that's one thing she has to have. So I was thinking about that. For our issues of patience, maybe we're not going through this severe thing. Maybe it will give us a little different focus on thinking about patience. We can do a little better. We don't have to wait as much as someone like Johnny has to. So now for my little illustration. Patience allows a banana to ripen to a place where we can enjoy its taste or even make yummy banana bread out of it. Right? If you don't wait. And I was thinking the other one, it's like that is what, the persimmon? The persimmon, you have to wait. It has to get the right tannins acting, and you can't use them because they're terrible. They're bitter. Poison in your mouth. Avocado. But you know, you have to wait till you enjoy the bananas. Unless you're one of the weirdos that likes green bananas. Oh. That's part of that video I watched. There's like 20 different degrees of whatever it was, bananas. So too, patience with a trial in life will allow us to enjoy a more Christ-like character in the end. Get the most out of the fruit of patience in your life. Turn it into banana bread. Lemons to lemonade, that's right. Hi, Ruthie.
Oh, Ruby.
She's up late.
Stay.
Okay. Any comments?
Even just you sharing about Joni, but like I feel like anytime that I get impatient, I can get like angry or annoyed or irritable. But if I bring it back to being thankful and like so much count our blessings, like we've talked about, it usually helps me realize, oh, my situation's not so bad. Like I'm alright.
Right, yeah, it's focused.
Plus we have Christ with us, so that's who we should rely on.
Exactly.
And that thankful goes to that part of knowing that He is with us. It would be very hard to start counting your blessings if you didn't realize what it came from.
Exactly. It's a good way to change your focus in any situation. Think about those blessings. Count your many blessings. No, go ahead.
Scripture that says, be still and know that I'm God.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always happen when everything's going mature.
No.
And I'm no saint at all, and I'm very impatient. And I'm sure I'm real bad patient, but when I had cancer, that was all I had, I couldn't see, and I couldn't get up, and and it was me and God, and I would change. I would church experience, right?
You grew through
One
it.
of the most precious times of my life.
You got closer to God during that
Yeah,
time.
because he was there and he will be there with us through everything, you know.